You are good on Instagram. You don't need to go anywhere. So we're excited about that. So again, just give a second while we spool up everything and get the official word from Devin, and we'll be on our live feed. So
looks like we're good. Let me check it here.
All right. Again, one more second. You're listening to Nate Zielinski talking hunting. It's that time of year.
We're good.
We're good. All right, guys. Again, I'm Nate Zielinski. Welcome to our live feed. Guys, promoting education. At the heart and soul of everything I do, I am an elk hunter. My life and passion is elk hunting, but I'll tell you, I hunt everything that walks, everything that I can get a tag for. I pursue mule deer, predator per se. So excited about that. Guys, huge thanks. We could not do this without Bowtech Archery for providing their page. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. Obviously, just had the launch of the Realm and Realm X, but guys, there's a lot of archery equipment coming out of Bowtech. So huge thanks to Bowtech, just in general, for letting us go live from their page and providing this platform. Huge thanks to Diamond Archery, Black Gold Sights, Ripcord Rests, Tight Spot Quivers. Guys, you get everything on those pages we just mentioned is on this bow right here. It makes the official killing machines. Huge thanks to that. Also, again, a huge thanks to Nate Zielinski's page, Excalibur, and everybody else, Bass Pro Shops of Denver, and everybody else taking the feed. So again, a huge thanks to everybody for being a part of this. Guys, this is an interactive social experience. If you guys have questions, I would love to hear them. Guys, I'll spend this entire show answering your questions. You send questions, things like that, we'll answer them, and we'll carry on from there. If not, we're going to talk about the topic of choice. Interactive, again, I'm Western-based. You have questions about big game. To take your questions, read them aloud, and answer them aloud. So if you have those questions, make sure you comment below. Also, share it and tag it with your friends. Bring everybody into this conversation. We'd love to talk to everyone about all this type of stuff. So again, bring your questions. Tonight's story, guys, we've been talking elk hunting, we've been talking deer hunting, we've been talking last week, we talked crossbows, so much different stuff in the hunting world that we've been talking about. Tonight we're changing paces, and it's all about fur bearers. So tonight it's all about the furry coated friends. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat. So talking about fur bearers, guys, we're going to be talking about predators, coyotes, bobcats, beavers, and every year I get this itch, and to be totally honest with you, I still have a mule deer hunt. A lot of people have been following it, been asking about how my hunt's been going. I just waiting for some cold weather. In Colorado, we've been highs of 60s. I'm still seeing a lot of deer. To be totally honest with you, I'm passing up some bucks that I should never dream of passing up. But I have an amazing tag. I had till the end of the month to use this tag, so I got lots of time left. And coming Thursday of this week, we have snow and we have got bitter cold. I mean, bitter cold, below, it's 10 below degrees in the lows. So we have some great deer hunting weather coming up. So to be honest, I've just been biding my time, just kind of hanging out and waiting for these cold temps to hit. Just waiting to see what deer are available, what else is kind of going to pop out of the woodwork. So I'm just biding my time, hanging out. And again, I promise you, when we go live via Instagram and Facebook, depending on which one we go for, or hopefully both, when it's time to do that. So again, if you want those notifications, text GO LIVE to 77453, and we'll send you that notification when we go live on that mule deer hunt. But while we're waiting for that, every hunter goes through this, especially the bow hunters. We start off our seasons in August. We prep all summer. We scout and we shoot, and we go through our hunting season. Successful, not successful. All of a sudden, we hit this time of year where we start to run out of tags. Again, I have 10, 11 days left on my tag, and then I'll be running out of that. And we all go through this phase of, I don't want to put the bow down. I got to keep shooting. I want to keep being interactive. Doing the waterfowl thing with bows. They're shooting geese. You see everybody doing the small game stuff, the predator stuff. And to be honest, it's a blast. It's exciting to be out there doing new things with archery equipment. It's fun. To be totally honest, I started off doing rabbits. I want to talk about this just real quick because everybody out there's watching. They're like, dude, I don't want to hear about rabbit hunting. We just watched you killing this giant elk named Ricky, and you've been chasing 400-inch bulls, and now we're talking about rabbits. But it's an important thing because years ago I started shooting some rabbits with my bow, and it was strictly for a continuation of the hunting season. I wanted to be in the field. I wanted to keep hunting. And rabbits was one of those things that was open. The temps were cold. I could eat it. So it was a situation where it just continued my hunting season and allowed me to get out there. And after I spent some time chasing rabbits, it literally changed almost my entire archery world. For the fact that, number one, I'm shooting a small target. Number two, I'm shooting an animal that moves around a lot. But number three, is judging distance and taking different shot angles. And that's probably one of the biggest things that's helped myself as an archery hunter and just as a hunter in general, is literally taking it back to the days of rabbit hunting. I used to spend a ton of time in Gunnison and a lot of these, places that were just so frigid cold in the winter, that literally you would go out and the rabbits would have to move around to stay alive. It was so cold. So it offered some tremendous rabbit hunting, just hunting cottontails. And all of a sudden going out there to where whether you had a rangefinder and you would range the initial spot on the rabbit to get a rough idea, and then as that rabbit moved, you would shoot freehand from there, or free guess of distance, or whether you never carried a rangefinder. That was always my goal. Never carry a rangefinder. Obviously, shooting an elk, a deer, a sheep, I would never dream of taking that shot without the rangefinder, as long as I could. But going out, how many of you have done that to where you go out and you're like, hey, I'm not carrying the rangefinder. I'm leaving the vortex at home, and I'm doing nothing but guessing distance and taking that shot. Now, again, you miss a big deer, it's heartbreaking. It's crushing. You never want to take that chance. Missing a rabbit probably doesn't bother you. It doesn't bother you at all. So this is the time to get out there and test out those skills. Like, put a judo point on, grab the bow, and go out there and find that small game animal. And, hey, I think it's at 20 yards. Oh, man, I completely missed. No sweat off your back. You're not concerned about it. As to where on a big game species, it breaks your heart if you miss that. And the nice thing on the small game stuff, even on a less than perfect shot, you have so much energy coming out of these bows, coming out of the Realm X, that you're going to have a lethal shot in almost any shot. So that's the big feature about that. So, I can misjudge a rabbit, and I can hit it a little high, a little low, and it is still vitally lethal to that animal, to where I'm very humane. Everything is being done in the correct fashion. But it really makes me a better archer. All of a sudden, I'm shooting those straight downhill shots. I'm shooting uphill. I'm judging distance. And literally, after a hunt, 5 hunts, 10 hunts, a couple months of hunting, things like rabbits, all of a sudden, myself as a hunter, my skill level literally goes through the roof. And I know people are laughing. People are not believing me. But it will blow your mind at all of a sudden being able to judge what a 30-yard shot in the field is. And that's the biggest difference. Everybody judges at their range at their house, their backyard. They go to that target range. Everybody knows what 30 yards looks like. Everybody knows that changes when you're out in the field. Everything looks closer than it is. Oh, man, that stump over there, that's got to be 50 yards, and it's 100. It's just what happens. So all of a sudden, getting out there and forcing yourself to take shots by guessing and judging distance and having those failures, all of a sudden, your skill level will go through the roof when it's time to actually get out there and hunt in the field. So again, number one thing, when you talk about rabbits, shooting fast, shooting instant, judging distance, there's no better opportunity than hunting on live animals out in the woods. So this hunting season right now, it's cold, most of the bugs are gone, you can eat all these rabbits. It's a great time to get out there. So think about small game hunting with the bow, take that equipment out there. I promise you, it will make you a better hunter as you go down the list. And from that going on, we got a question real quick.
Yeah, just kind of going back to your deer hunting thing.
Yeah.
What's your favorite broadhead? We've touched this 1,000 times, but we've got new followers.
Absolutely. So new followers, talking about broadheads. I go back and forth on a couple of different heads. So number one, I'm always about a fixed head. I don't use mechanicals. I'm all about a fixed head. Right now, I'm actually shooting what they call as a blackout. This is actually a Bass Pro branded broadhead. So it's a Bass Pro labeled. It looks very similar to a Montec, just a little bit different design. I actually like the actual true head portion on this just a little bit better. But guys, this is a blackout by Bass Pro Shops. Absolutely love it. It's 100 grain, and I love it. My other head that I shoot probably most often is a Magna Stinger. This is going to be a cut-on contact head. But I love shooting a Magna Stinger, and I absolutely love shooting that blackout. I mean, you saw that deer in South Dakota, that live hunt. He ran 60, 70 yards. And to be totally honest, I don't want to be graphic, but there was more blood around that situation where I shot that deer than anything I've ever seen. I mean, it was crazy how much blood came out of that animal. And same thing on the pronghorn. A lot of people saw a pronghorn that Devin was part of. That animal, what do you run? 40 yards, Devin?
If that.
If that. I had a pronghorn that's notorious for running hundreds of yards with that same head. So, again, that Bass Pro head is the one that did the deer in South Dakota as well as that pronghorn. And those animals literally fell within sight. I haven't seen an animal leave my sight in years, to be totally honest with you. Most of these animals fall over within vision. So again, a Magnus Stinger cut on contact, and then those Blackouts by Bass Pro Shops. Those are the two heads that I'm shooting right now. The difference of the two, to shoot, again, the bows nowadays, Bowtechs are creating, are amazing. I mean, the most tunable bows out there, but they're fast. So this new Realm X, I'm shooting well into the 300, and the Magnus Stingers are starting to plane just a little bit at distance. Close range, no issues, but not that I would take a long shot in the field, but when I'm looking at a 100-yard shot, I'm not as accurate with that Magnus just because I'm getting a little planing action at longer distance, as where this head right here, the Bass Pro head, flies amazing at extremely long distance. You talk about a 100-yard shot. The only time I'm personally taking that is, let's say I zip an arrow through an elk, I get a perfect double lung shot, he runs out to 100, I call and stop him, I'll shoot him again. So I'll take a second shot at that long range. But either way, I'm getting a little bit better accuracy with that head at long range. That's where the Magnus, I'm getting a little flighty at that range. Now, if I can slow my bow down or create more arrow weight, so I can go to a 500 grain system, or I can go down to that 290 feet per second, and I can get amazing flight out of that Magnus Stinger. So really, it's an arrow speed thing. But right now, these bows are screaming, so just kind of break it down between those two heads for those situations.
All right, so now talking about that, what do you suggest for small game?
Small game, I am all about the Judo Point as far as the real small stuff. So rabbits, I'm all about the Judo Point for two reasons. Number one, the Judo Point is amazing for the fact that it's extremely lethal on this small game. But number two, as I shoot an expensive arrow, let's just face it, a gold tip velocity arrow right here isn't cheap. It's not like shooting a 22 or shooting a shotgun. If you're blowing up arrows when you're rabbit hunting, you're not going to enjoy it. You can go out and spend $100 a night and you're going to run out of arrows. It gets pricey. To the point where if you shoot a Judo Point, as that Judo Point hits, that arrow basically just rolls, and all of a sudden you're not wasting gear. You can shoot Judo Points in the ground all day long. They don't bury, so you don't lose the arrow, and they'll roll over to where all that impact gets turned, and you're not blowing up shafts. So I'm shooting a Judo Point for almost all the small game stuff, strictly for the fact that it protects my arrows, and it's still lethal on that small game. So very excited about the Judo Points. They work great in almost all those situations. So those are the heads that I'm shooting for both that variety of big game and small game in those situations. And again, they both work great. Now, a lot of guys are shooting blunts. Only issue I have with a blunt is, number one, I see a lot of animals running away with that. Sometimes they'll stick into a rabbit. They're not quite as vital. They're extreme impact on initial impact, but I don't have any impact or energy carrying into that animal. That's where the Judo Point, I get a lot of carrying into the animal. So just a little bit more humane using the Judo Point overall versus a blunt per se. So concepts there. Got it covered?
Yeah, excellent.
Perfect.
You're good.
Good. All right, awesome. All right, guys, so I think we're talking there. Now, we shoot rabbits. Again, it's a lot of continuing the hunting season. It's a lot of practice with archery equipment. It's a blast. Then you move into coyotes. Now, there's not an animal alive, at least an animal that I personally know of, that lives in fear more than a coyote. I think in every state that exists, a coyote gets shot at on a regular basis, whether it's a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. I mean, even city coyotes, every coyote in the world gets harassed. And therefore they get very scared. I mean, you obviously have, coyotes in an inner city that might not get shot at as much. And, you can drive by them. Maybe you stop your car, maybe they panic. And then you have, coyotes in these out of the town areas, a far coyote, whatever you want, a natural coyote, whatever you want to say it. These coyotes where they get hunting pressure. You literally slow your car down and they're running Mach 10 trying to get away from you. It's just an animal that is constantly getting harassed for the fact that we have so many predators, so many coyotes. Their deprivation, it's just becomes a nuisance. So you get so many coyotes and, everybody's shooting at them and they just live in fear because everybody wants them gone. With that being said, when it's time to start hunting coyotes, it's literally probably more of a challenge and a greater reward to call a coyote in and harvest it with a bow as much as it is a big buck or a big bull elk. It's just one of those things that it doesn't sound that way, but when you call in an elk, I mean, he's coming in with zero fear. He wants to kill you. He's so excited and so fired up, and he's not even thinking there's a hunter there. even when calling coyotes and using the perfect call, whether a mouth call or an electronic call, that coyote still has fear. He still knows something's wrong. And be able to draw on a coyote and get a shot off on a coyote with a bow is an amazing accomplishment. So it's one of those things that I love to challenge my skills. I love to get in a situation of hunting coyotes. Again, whether I'm doing it to help out a rancher, help the land, I'm looking at for a fur bearer situation, I want the hide, or whatever the case may be, whatever you're hunting this animal for. Again, doing it with a bow is a huge challenge. I mean, it's hard enough with a gun, let alone doing it with a bow. But again, if you want to be a better hunter, if no other reason, you're saying, hey, I had a great fall. This is my first year as an archery hunter. Hey, I've been doing it 20 years. I had a rough year. I got caught drawn back on that bull. I got caught and drawn back on that whitetail. Or something just didn't happen. I was unsuccessful. And I feel it's because my skills are letting me down. Spend time at the range. Spend time with this feed, doing education, trying to make yourself a more educated hunter. But get yourself into those situations. Rabbits, coyotes. If you can honestly hit, 80-90% of your rabbits without a rangefinder, if you can call in coyotes and draw smooth enough and shoot without getting caught with that movement, I promise you, you will be a better whitetail hunter, a better elk hunter, and just far a better hunter in general, because you're going to have that greater skill set. So again, as we talk coyotes, we're actually we're going to be joined here on this next feed. We're taking off for Christmas. We'll talk about that later. But on the next time that we come back here, guys, we're going to be joined by literally some of the best coyote hunters in the world. I mean, these guys that hunt coyote championships, they make the DVDs, literally the best predator hunters in the world we're going to have on the feed to talk about that. So I don't want to beat up coyotes too much, but the concept of hunting coyotes with a bow, it's overlooked, it's entertaining, and literally it's a challenge amongst all challenges. And the big thing with that is, one, they're always scared. So again, you're hunting an animal that lives in total fear, so it's hard to get their attention. It's hard to draw them in. It's hard to get them within range. It's hard to draw on that animal, and it's hard to hit that animal because very rarely do they just come in and sit still. They are always on the go, always nervous. So it's a huge skill set. The other fact is that you're calling. So in a coyote situation, depending on where you're at, some people just use movement and use decoys that are a movable source. But a lot of people are obviously going to be calling. That's the number one way to hunt these animals. And do you use a mouth call or do you use an electronic call? They both have their strong senses. Obviously, the electronic call, you have hundreds, if not thousands of sounds. I mean, back in the day, you had crows, you had, coyotes howling, mice, rabbit in distress. You had, 4 or 5 noises, and that was your call selection. Nowadays, you look at like the Fox Pro list or whatever calling agent you're using, you look at the sounds that you can make out of a digital caller, and it's thousands. I mean, it's thousands. The last time I was out hunting cows with my bow, my best sound was house cats fighting. Who would ever have thought of that? Literally, house cats fighting. I called in coyotes. We called in a mountain lion. I mean, everything in the world came into that, but it's a sound that you never think of. The list goes on and on. There is thousands and thousands of sounds that you can make out of an electronic call, and as you go to new areas, new territories, all these sounds can hit home with a certain coyote and lead to success. So hand call versus electronic call. Now the only thing is, a lot of times in pressured areas, I don't know what it is, sometimes that hand call can just do better. Sometimes you being behind it, making conscious decisions of tones, of different volumes, instead of having to adjust the volume, you can just do it out of your mouth. And a lot of times, a hand call or a mouth call can outproduce an electronic call, and I've seen it go both ways. But regardless, as you're using a call and you got a bow in your hand, obviously with a gun, you can still run a dial and pick up that scope and shoot it. With a bow, it's a lot harder. So you obviously have to have hand and release, hand on bow. You're trying to get set up, and it's hard to work a hand call and still draw. Because a lot of times with a coyote, you have to call up until that very last second. So, again, it's a challenge that people don't think about. But it's also very similar. How many times are you bow hunting and you're trying to bugle at an elk and then draw? Same thing with a coyote. A lot of these techniques go back and forth between the animals. So, again, if you can successfully and somewhat on a continuous basis call in coyotes and harvest on the bow, I promise you, you'll be much more successful in any of the big game that you start to hunt, because, again, the skill set's aligned for both these animals. So, again, we're going to talk a lot more about hand calls, digital calls, what sounds to make, temperatures, things like that, here in the very near future with some of the best coyote hunters in the world. Got another question there, Devin?
Yeah, regarding deer hunting. So Corey Schoen is thinking about switching from 100 grain to 125 grain shooting whitetail. How much speed will you lose? What are the pros and cons of doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, I need you to know your setup. You roughly know what draw weight you're shooting, what kind of speeds you're shooting. That's really what's going to come into that play. But pros and cons, obviously, you're going to have more kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is a situation of mass overall weight and speed at which that weight is flying, and that's how you're going to get your energy. As long as you have enough speed to push that much weight, your kinetic energy is going to go farther. So yes, you're going to get better pass-throughs. The best situation is, let's say that animal presents itself and you have to shoot it in the shoulder. We never suggest shoulder shots because so many times they fail. But with enough weight and enough speed, obviously you're going to create more energy, and that energy, you're going to have a lot more push power. So you're going to be able to blow through more bone, frontal shots, shoulder shots. In the situation of an animal quartering away and you hit that animal right in the rib, if you are shooting speed or light weight, your arrow's going to deflect and it's going to glance, leading to a lot of times poor shots. Upping that arrow weight or that head weight, obviously you're going to get a lot more pushing power and get direct flight through. So yes, your overall killing power is better. Now, again, it comes into a math equation. You can't have
Bowtech Invasion 68 pounds.
68 pounds, perfect. Yeah, so you're probably going to have enough speed to do that. Absolutely. You never want to get too much weight in the front of that arrow. Again, the arrow has to be balanced. So there's a lot of things that are going to go into that we can kind of talk about. And again, we have experts on here that'll talk nothing but that arrow setup. But absolutely, I would say the big reason, number one, as long as everything's kind of dialed in for that, and you tune your bows, you got to put Bowtech. You have the most tunable bow in the country, or in the world, I should say. But jumping to that 125, you're definitely going to get more energy, more knockdown power, more push power. The biggest reason I personally shoot more weight is strictly for the fact of getting that arrow to go exactly where I want. So that animal's quartering to, I'm ensuring myself I'm not going to get a glance. I know that arrow's going to push right through because I have that power, and power being kinetic energy by the process of weight versus speed. And it's what's going to bring success. So I'm a big fan of shooting more weight. I'd rather have more weight than more speed, personally speaking. The only negatives, again, is if your arrows don't match up and your weight ratio gets weird, you don't get good flight. That can only be a negative. And the only other negative is slowing your bow down enough to where if you misjudge distance. That's the only big benefit of shooting a light, fast arrow is if you think the deer is at 50 and he's at 60, a lot of times you can still make a good shot if your bow's light enough and fast enough. Shooting a heavier grain arrow is going to slow things down, so you're going to get more of an arch, you're going to get more drop. So sometimes it can misread distance, but I try to make sure I stay on top of that, whether it's through a rangefinder or just hunting rabbits like we're talking about, and you get more killing power to that.
Well, with the tight quarters, so to speak, with the whitetail.
Whitetail, absolutely. If you're shooting 40 yards or less, more than likely you'll be set. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of shooting more weight. We talk about it in a lot of different shows. Every time we talk about arrow structure, things like that, I tend to go more than less, for sure.
Should he put some more weight in the arrow, too, or stick with the
Generally speaking, I would put just a little bit more. Everybody talks about 10 grains per inch. Again, I would shoot your bow and figure out a speed, and that's how I would start. So I would shoot through a chronograph with that 100 grain hand, what you've been shooting with your normal arrow. I would look at that speed, and then I'd start plugging it in to do the equations and figure out exactly where you're at with all that. Weigh your arrow without a head, weigh your arrow with a head, and kind of start breaking it down from that point on.
And your local shop should be able to help you
Absolutely. We always suggest going to a pro shop because, again, I don't want to give you too much just because, again, I don't know your exact bow. But going to a local pro shop can definitely help you out. They have programs on their computers right there that'll spit out the exact ratios that you should be shooting. So definitely, that can help you out there. So pro shop would definitely help. But, again, everybody's going lighter and faster. Weight definitely helps you out in the field.
Excellent. He's shooting Carbon Express 350s. He just wanted you to know. So.
Yeah, absolutely. 68 pounds you're going to be with a 350. You're gonna be right in there. You could probably definitely step up. I mean, you could. I shouldn't say you should have to, but you probably definitely have the room to step up that extra 25 grains for sure. So we'll talk about that more. If you have any questions, definitely send me a private message and we'll walk you through it. So definitely, and guys, make sure you send your questions. That's what it's all about. You have more questions, send them in. We'd love to answer questions and do everything we can to make you a better hunter. So send those questions in. Just talking about coyotes. Obviously, we're going to be joined. I should say we are going to be joined in a couple weeks with some of the best predator hunters. So I don't want to get too in depth with it, but again, if you can successfully and easily harvest coyotes with a bow, I promise you, you're ready for other big game out there. Now, last thing we're going to talk about, again, and this is something that we're going to talk about in future shows, but talk about the ultimate archery experience, guys. The ultimate predator that most people are hunting, mostly in the western states, but really anywhere in the country. The ultimate predator to be hunting in the continental United States, guys, is the mountain lion. Everybody talks about this. Guys, it's a ball. I mean, you're talking about a big cat. It's the closest thing we get to Africa. A big mountain lion with archery equipment is a stellar hunt. It's exciting. Everything about it is fun. Now, there's 3 styles of basically mountain lion hunting out there. I've been a part of all of them. Number 1, and probably 98% of mountain lions, 99% of mountain lions that are harvested are with the use of dogs. Basically, turning hound dogs loose on a track. The hounds are going to take you to a tree, and people are making the kill shot at that tree. I've done it. I've been a part of it. I love it. It's a successful way. No matter what people think, even with dogs, I don't think it's even remotely as easy as you think it is. Everybody thinks you turn the dogs loose, the dog puts the lion in the tree close to the road, and it's a done deal. I mean, it will take you on the most adrenaline but also physical hunt of your life. I can't tell you how many times you can't get to the dogs that day because it's so physical with rough terrain or distance or whatever the case may be. So we're going to get into that in a different show, but hunting lions with dogs is not what everybody thinks it is, I should say. It's a rough hunt, and your success rate is still not amazing. So
you've slept in the woods by yourself for a couple nights because nobody else wanted to stay with you. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's brutal. And again, there's times where you turn the dogs loose and you're like, it's going to take us a week to get there. It's a whole new element. We're going to have a whole show dedicated to that here in the coming weeks. So make sure you stay tuned to that. But hunting lions with dogs, that's one avenue for success. It's the most common because, again, the overall success rate is better that way. I'm not going to say it's guaranteed because it's not. But it's better that way. But the other 2 styles that are becoming more popular just because you have people that, number 1, can't afford a guided hunt, 2, don't want to trade in lion dogs or deal with lion dogs, is the opportunity to call lions. And same type thing with coyotes. Lions are actually pretty receptive to calls, especially if you have a lion that's not on a kill. Whether you're using a female in heat, which is a very loud, obnoxious, hard-to-do call, but you'll draw males in with that, and it's a great way to be successful. Simple things like a rabbit in distress. Lions are curious. They're all about that easy meal. If they don't have to go out and chase a deer down and kill it, they're all about coming into a call. The biggest things with calling lions, you have basically 2 things to hurt you. Number 1, you have to be in an area where lions are at. So I think so many people set up because they're like, oh, this area looks good. And they start calling, and they don't have success. And they immediately are like, that didn't work. They didn't want to come into it. I would say 90% of failed lion calling sets are actually failed because there wasn't a lion in hearing distance of that call. They couldn't hear you. Just flat out what it is. There's a lot of lions, but there's usually not as many as people basically would think there is. They're set-wise. They think that a lion should come running in from 100 miles away. If they're not coming in, they probably just haven't heard you. So what I do in a calling situation, number 1, is I act just like I'm a hound hunter. So just like I'm lion hunting with dogs. I go out on a fresh snow. I go out earlier. I go out on a snow-fallen ground, and I literally drive around on roads, cover ground, until you find a track. When you find a track, at least you know there's lions in the area. Maybe you hike that track out until it gets very fresh. Once the track is fresh, that's where you set up and start your calling, because at least you know there's lions in the area. And all of a sudden, your results show that work shows for those results. Immediately you start having better success on those call sets. The other big thing I'd say that is different in a lion situation than a coyote situation is when a coyote comes into a call, they're trotting. So many times you see this dog bouncing along doing their trot, and you're like, oh, there he is, 600 yards, get ready. 400 yards, 300 yards, and he comes in. Lions so many times walk in with a slower gait. They're walking in slow. And all of a sudden when they get to where they can really hear the sound, where they can really pinpoint the sound, they'll lay down. I mean, literally all you see a lot of times is just that little tip of that tail wiggling over top their head. A lion investigates so much more. So a lion will lay down, crouch, and look around. And so many times us, the hunter, we're looking, we're like, you see him? Hey, Devin, you see the lion? You know, we're like, I don't see anything yet. You know, you call and doing your thing, and then you're looking, and that lion's like, what is that? What are these jokers doing? And we ruin our chances before it even happens, just for the fact that the lion doesn't make as big of an entrance as a coyote would. So on the lion hunting side versus the coyote hunting side, you really, whether you're in a blind or you are really no movement. Everything is on the lower key until you see that animal. Once you see the animal, let's say, hey, there's the lion right there. Once I see him, once he ducks behind a bush, once he drops in a ditch, I can make more movement. But until you see him first, you have to see him first before he sees you. Otherwise, it's game over. So in the lion hunting sets, you're really trying to be more conscious of the movement. You're really trying to slow things down. And you are really behind the glass as you're calling to make sure you can locate that animal. Now, depending on where you're at, state to state, a lot of states you are not allowed to use electronic calls for lions. You can for coyotes, not for lions. So for lions, a lot of times you are forced to use a mouth call or hand call. So just check your regulations, talk to your local wildlife agent before doing so. Now, the last way to pursue lions, again, we're going to talk about all this stuff in detail. This is basically our opening show to predator hunting. The last thing we talk about with hunting lions is basically cutting a track, so driving around, finding a fresh track, and walking it out. Now, I warn you, sometimes this can be as physical as anything. There's times where you cut a track and you literally walk 400 yards and you come across a kill. Where you come across a deer laying there, an elk laying there. You literally come across the kill. At that point in time, if the lion's not laying on it, I literally get my wind right to where I think that track went away, and I set up. And when that lion comes back to feed on that natural kill, you have the opportunity to take that animal. You can't mess with the kill. You cannot move the kill. You can't tie the kill to anything. You can never touch the kill, but you can hunt over a kill in a lot of different states. But again, you just personally cannot touch it. A lot of guys make that mistake. They find a dead deer that a lion killed, and they're like, oh man, he's going to drag it off. Let's tie it to a tree so he can't move it. That becomes an illegal action. So again, I'm not telling you what you can or can't do in your state, but check your regulations, talk to your wildlife agent, and see what is possible in your area. But hunting over a kill, as long as you don't touch the kill, a lot of times is a great way to do it. The problem is, I've seen it to where literally I cut a track off a road and I find a kill within the first couple hundred yards. Sometimes it's within the first mile, and that's awesome. And again, and these animals, generally speaking, as long as the kill is covered, they're coming back. The last night or the last time the lions feed on the kill, if they do not cover it, they're done. So if they're coming back, they cover it back up. Sticks, branches, dirt, whatever. If they're returning to the kill, it's covered. When they are not on the kill anymore, it is open. So if you walk up and the kill's wide open, the lion is done feeding on it, it's got what it wanted, and it has moved on. But if you show up and it's covered up, wait it out. That lion's going to be back. Now, the only unfortunate thing with this, you see lions that I think they say that the average lion in Colorado and Wyoming, I think they say it has a 70-mile square radius or a square, area in which it covers. So there's times if you have an area with a low deer population, you have a lion that just fed on a dead deer for 5 days, that lion might walk for 25 miles before he has another kill. Sometimes it's every couple hundred yards, every couple miles. Sometimes it can be 25 miles. So if you're taking the approach of finding a track, walking it out until you find a kill and setting up on that kill, sometimes luck's in your favor and you find a kill close. Sometimes it might be 30 miles you have to hike before you find that kill. So again, talking those options, calling is one great option for lion. Setting up on a kill is a great option, and obviously the use of dogs is a great option. Really, your style of hunting, your ethics, whatever you want to do, is up to you as a hunter. Over the next month, we're going to be talking coyotes, and with the leading coyote experts, we're going to be talking about lions and everything from walking out kills, calling, and obviously the use of dogs. We're going to be talking about all this stuff literally over the next month through our basically our Predator series, if you will. We got another question there real quick, Devin?
Yeah, interesting question. So is there, in lack of better terms, a rut for lions? Is there a breeding time that's better?
Unfortunately, there's not. So, yeah, absolutely. If you have a female in heat, you're going to draw lions in from everywhere. My father-in-law, Dean Hendrickson, is probably one of the most renowned lion hunters that I've ever known. And he knows everything about them. I was hunting with him probably 4 years ago now. We literally had a situation of a female in heat. And I believe that day there was 6 or 7 toms that came for that female in heat. So literally, we're driving around and we find one female track, and all of a sudden there's another tom following her. Then another one, and we're coming across areas where the lions are fighting. And literally a nightmare because you had so many cats you didn't know what to do, and it's crazy. So if you get the right female in heat, it's unbelievable. But unfortunately, it's very similar to like a house cat almost. Their breeding cycles really vary. You might have one female in heat in October, one in March, one in summer. Their cycles are all different. They can, most of them are going to set up to have kittens in the spring. But generally speaking, they'll have kittens, all the time. So it's not a specific week or month at which they're going into heat. And the females will generally keep their kittens with them for some time. So if they have a litter of 1, 2, 3, they're going to have those kittens with them for quite some time. Generally speaking, again, we're going to see them having the kittens, having their litters early in the year, early in the spring, I should say. So generally speaking, you're going to have more, the females going into heat earlier in the hunting season versus later in the hunting season. But I've seen it 100% all winter as far as those cycles of them being in heat. So unfortunately, it is hard to time. But if you have a female in the area, there's nothing better for you as a lion hunter because you will have males from 30 miles away coming to try to breed that female. So again, it's a magnet. More so than having a lot of deer, having one female in heat will pull more lions in the area than anything else out there.
And what about scent with mountain lions? Does that play a big factor? Do you have to play the wind? You
do have to play the wind. Their nose is fantastic. Their eyes are better, so I would say that they're going to see you more than anything, but scent is absolutely crucial. So if you're on a calling set, you're hunting a kill that a lion has made, everything comes into play. But visuals are number one, in my personal opinion. Scent is number 2. Obviously, close quarter scent is huge, but I would worry about vision more so than scent.
And let's take one more question here.
Yep.
A lot of people say that they wait for the snowfall for mountain lion hunting. Why snow to be successful in mountain lion hunting?
Absolutely. So it's not. So you can take this question either way. So a lot of times everybody does snow when they're using dogs. A dog will track a lion, most dogs, a good hound, I should say, will track a lion in dirt as much as snow. Absolutely no issues to it. The dog doesn't have the issue with it. Obviously, the only time dogs really lose scent is when you have snow and the snow melts and then the scent dissipates. The biggest reason is for us, the hunter. So if I'm going to hunt dry ground and you don't have snow, you basically are going to have your hounds in the front of your truck or something. You're covering ground with your dogs. When the dogs all of a sudden light up to tell you there's a track, you then have to walk around with the dogs and try to find a track in soft dirt. The problem is most of our lion hunting seasons are going to be from middle of fall to early spring. Most of our ground is frozen. It is hard to find a track to know what you're chasing. You don't want to turn your dogs loose or spend time calling and all of a sudden have an 80-pound female with 2 little kittens come into your call set. It's neat to see, but as a hunter, it does you no good. You're not going to harvest this animal. Or, hey, I'm a hunter. I'm looking for a 150-pound tom, and all I'm hunting is a female. So when you have dry ground, number one, you never know what direction they're going. or you never know what you're chasing, a female with kittens, a young tom, a young female, until you see that track. So it becomes difficult. All of a sudden when you have snow, you instantly know, hey, this track, it's a bigger track. The stride is, 38, 40 inches. You know that it's a big animal, so you immediately know it's mature. Hey, this is great. You also know it's not being accompanied by kittens. It's not a situation that I don't want to get in. And I also know, hey, this track obviously is going this direction. I want to turn the dogs loose that way. I want to call that direction. I want to walk that direction to look for a kill. So the snow is more for the aid of us to, number one, hands down, know what we're chasing. We want to be on a mature animal. We want to be on a male versus female. And again, the size of the track, the stride is going to tell you a lot of that stuff. Whether it's a super young male or a smaller or an adult female, that stride and the size of that track is going to tell us that type stuff. Number two is going to tell us how fresh, so obviously how close the animal is. And then again, if it's accompanied with kittens and or the direction it's going. So the snow is more aiding us more than anything else. So.
Good. We're good.
Awesome. All right, guys. Again, I'm going to take off here in just a second. Guys, again, this is the start. This is the opening week of predator hunting. Everybody looks forward to Shark Week on National Geographic or whatever it is. Guys, this is Predator Week for us. This is the intro show. Over the next month or so, we're going to be talking coyotes, and we're going to be talking about lions. We'll also be talking about, hopefully, the big buck that I harvest here over the course of the next 10 days as a cold front hits us here in Colorado. So I know that my goals are for a giant. I'm hoping for a 180, 190, 200-inch mule deer. Really hoping for the upwards of those numbers. But I'll be pursuing them once this cold front hits us on Thursday. But guys, it's all about coyotes. It's all about lions from that point on. Now, we are doing one thing. We're going to be taking off for Christmas. Obviously, myself, Devin, who's here behind the camera. If you don't ever see Devin, flip the camera around. Can we do that?
We can do that.
All right. Look at Devin right there.
Right here.
So there is Devin. He is here at every show, whether I'm talking or not very much. Guys, Devin is here with us all the time. Devin's got 2 girls. I've got a boy and a girl, so we're taking off for Christmas. So we will not be here next week. We'll actually be joining you again, January 9th?
January 9th.
So we're taking off for the holidays, guys. So January 9th, we're going to be talking coyotes, probably 2 weeks of coyotes. Then we're going to be joining in with some of the best lion hunters in the country. So we'll be doing both those things here soon. So guys, again, huge thanks. Could not do it without Bowtech Archery. Huge thanks to Bowtech for, number one, providing the platform, and number two, making sure that we have their page to go live from. Guys, if you want notifications from all the hunts that we're going on, make sure you text GO LIVE to 77453. But guys, again, huge thanks to Bowtech Archery, Diamond Archery, Black Gold Sights, Ripcord Rest, Tight Spot Squirrels, Excalibur, Bass Pro Shops at Denver, and guys, obviously the Nate Zielinski page. Guys, again, could not do it without you. Make sure you tag your friends. Share this post. If you enjoyed this tonight, make sure you share it. Get more people involved in this conversation because, again, it's just going to get better and better. So bring your questions. We'll answer them live. Hopefully we'll make you a better and more successful hunter. Guys, and I will see you on January 9th. Again, I am Nate Zielinski. Thank you so much for joining us.